2085 looked familiar at first, like the present being gently cleared of noise. But standing there, I could feel my body waiting for something to hurry me along. Days passed as I walked the city, trying to match its pace. My instincts kept pushing me faster than everyone else. Nothing here was asking me to hurry, and that made me uneasy. After a week, the quiet began to press in. In my time, silence usually means something is wrong. Here, it felt like something had been finished. Weeks went by before I realized I'd stopped checking the time. No one here moved with urgency, and for the first time, my rushing felt out of place. I stayed longer than I planned. Each morning I expected impatience to return, but it didn't. Nothing was asking me to hurry, and I didn't yet know how to trust that. By my second month, it became clear that these cities weren't built to impress. They were built to be lived in. Back home, this kind of space would have been called wasteful. Waiting for transport felt unfamiliar. No pacing, no distraction. Just standing still, trusting that arriving later didn't mean arriving behind. Months passed, and people stopped looking through me. Conversations unfolded slowly. I noticed my own posture begin to soften. You see, knowledge wasn't guarded here. It was open, almost exposed. In my time, that kind of openness would have felt naive. By the end of my first season, I realized how tightly I'd been holding myself together. Without pressure, that tension had nowhere to hide. I didn't realize how tired I'd been until I wasn't anymore. As months blended together, cities and nature stopped feeling separate. Schedules loosened. Days were no longer something to get through. This future wasn't impressive the way I expected. It felt careful, like restraint had finally been recognized as intelligence. I spent entire afternoons sitting among the people doing nothing. No one questioned it. Stillness no longer needed permission. You see, they didn't build to dominate their environment. They built expecting to stay. Resilience here was quiet, but dependable. By the end of my first year, nights felt unfamiliar. Without constant stimulation, there was nowhere to run from thought, and somehow sleep became easier. Sometime during my second year, something shifted. I realized I wasn't observing this life anymore. I was inside it. Nothing was asking me to hurry, and for the first time, that felt like relief. I had lived my entire life under pressure before this. Without it, I had to relearn how to choose, and that realization scared me more than the silence ever had. Trust was built into everything here. Systems, spaces, routines. Belonging didn't require permission anymore. Movement still existed, but without friction. Efficiency no longer demanded urgency. Speed had learned when to stop. After months went by, it became abundantly clear. They didn't retreat from the ocean after past mistakes. They stayed present with it. Respect had replaced fear. After years in 2085, I understood this wasn't a utopia. It was a recovery, a civilization healing old reflexes. History wasn't hidden here. It was remembered carefully, like something still capable of repeating if ignored. I hadn't felt like an outsider in a long time. Even rain wasn't an interruption. People moved through it calmly. Patience had become instinct. I delayed leaving more than once. Not because I was unsure, but because staying felt gentler. Nothing was asking me to hurry, and I didn't want that to change. Years after arriving, I finally stopped asking what had changed. I began noticing what was gone. Anxiety, excess, the need to prove motion. Fear no longer drove decisions here. Neither did accumulation. Clarity had room to breathe. They hadn't solved every problem. They chose which ones deserved attention. The rest were gently set down. This future wasn't built on endless innovation. It was built on limits, on knowing when enough had been reached. When I finally left 2085, it didn't feel like discovery. It felt like loss, like stepping back into a world that would ask me to hurry again. And I wasn't sure I could forget what it felt like when nothing did. Thanks for walking through the future with me. Looking ahead always makes me think about how small our place in time really is. To really understand that, I went back millions of years. Welcome to the age of the dinosaurs.